The Sox lost last night to the Dodgers, but what did you expect? They play the Dodgers tonight. They'll probably lose again. We'll talk about the possible historic nature of their loss. We'll also talk to Patrick Nolan about the current rebuild here on the CHGO White Sox, not postgame show. It's the podcast. Podcast presented to you by Bet365. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary with their friends over at Bet365. Download their app today and use code CHGO365 when you sign up. Welcome into Studio B of our CHGO offices here in the West Loop of Chicago. I'm Sean Anderson, being produced today by my pal Sarah.
Hi.
Hello. We are coming to you again live after the loss from the White Sox last night. They lose 6-1 against the Dodgers. We'll talk about that game. We'll go deep into Shane Smith's outing. We'll talk about tonight's game, the historic nature of tonight's game. We'll talk to Patrick Nolan about the current rebuild that Chris Getz has going on, and we'll try to figure out maybe, just maybe, who will be the All-Star Game representative for your Chicago White Sox come July 16th, I think is when the All-Star Game is going on. Hit that like button if you haven't already. Make sure you're subscribing to the CHGO Sports YouTube channel. We also have a great diehard offer currently going on. Our typical annual pass of $80 a year is now down to $36 for an intro offer for the Make Your Move sale, as it's currently the NBA and NHL draft season / free agency season. So if you are looking to join our diehard Discord, if you're looking to get a shirt when you sign up, we also have exclusive written content up at allchgo.com. Hit that QR or scan that QR code in the corner and sign up to become a diehard today. Sox lose last night 6-1 in, I was going to say what's the actual place? It's Dodger Stadium, but I'm trying to think of the actual valley that it sits in, and I can't think of it. Anyways, that's what happens when you try to get cute with it.
It's the ballpark in LA, Dodger Stadium. That's what it's called.
I'm trying to think of like the actual like area that it's in.
It says ELYSIAN Park.
Okay.
Ellinson Park.
I don't know. Elias.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Sean.
no, whatever. Someone out there, I think, will understand what I'm trying to say. There was a valley that the Dodgers kicked out all of these like native immigrants from, and they built the park on that ground. Anyways, great. Sox lose 6-1. The big thing that we were looking into, Chavez Ravine. Thank you.
I knew someone on the internet would know.
I'm glad someone smarter can bail me out. Anyways, Sox lose 6-1. What we were focused on going into the game was Shane Smith and how he would do. The first 9 starts were fantastic for Shane Smith's career. The last 6 were a little bit iffy. And I thought yesterday was going to be one of those outings. I'm kind of surprised at how much better the under the hood stats look, because when you look at the box score, it is very ugly for Shane Smith. 4 2/3 innings pitched, 6 hits, 6 earned runs, 3 walks, 6 Ks, and 1 home run allowed. It was to Shohei Ohtani. We said that he would be giving up a home run to Ohtani in his second at-bat. Ohtani hits it in his third at-bat. So at least good job to Shane Smith to stave that off there for a bit. But if you looked and just at least watched the first 2 batters of Shane Smith's first inning, you'd probably feel pretty good. He got Ohtani to ground out to second, and then he got a Freeman line out to left, and you're sitting there getting through the toughest part of the Dodgers order, not having to face Betts that night. It's just Ohtani and Freeman. You get those 2 outs, but then you walk Will Smith, you walk Max Muncy, Teoscar Hernandez singles Will Smith in, then Pages doubles to left, scoring Muncy, Teoscar at third, and then Conforto hit a single, scoring both Hernandez and Pages, and that's a 4-0 inning right there. Outside of that, Shane Smith looked pretty decent. He did give up that home run to Ohtani in the bottom of the 4th, but you know what? Honestly, oh well. I think that's what happens when you throw a slider down and into the greatest left-handed hitter of my lifetime. No offense to Barry Bonds. Ohtani, we think, is doing this clean. So, he threw a pretty bad pitch in a bad moment. It was 3-2 full count. I'd probably rather see him throw a fastball up because he didn't throw a fastball in that entire sequence. Maybe go back to the changeup that Ohtani grounded out to in the first at-bat. But no, he tries to get cute, goes with the slider, and just leaves it exactly where every lefty loves it, down and in. So not, great when you look at the box score, but when you actually look at, when you look at what happened, and you look at my expectations were for Shane Smith on what was going to happen, I'm coming away feeling a little bit better. The fact that he still has the life on all of his pitches, his four-seam fastball up 0.7 miles per hour, his curveball up 0.6 miles per hour, slider 1.3 miles per hour, his changeup 1.5 miles per hour. That's honestly a little exciting. The fact that he has, had more rest in between starts. It's either been 6 to 5 days between each and every start. He's mainly starting every Monday or Tuesday since June. But the fact that he's able to gain velocity, that should be exciting. You're worried about him reaching that innings career high of 94, and with his 4 innings, he's over 80 now on this year. The fact that it does still seem like he's strong, I wonder what it's like when he goes back and faces some lesser opponents. I mean, it is tough to go up against the Dodgers. I don't think that's crazy for me to say that. And the fact that he had an iffy outing shouldn't have you too worried. There's some people saying, I wonder if he's running into a rookie wall. The fact that a Rule 5 pick is giving you this much to hope and dream about should be a win in itself. The fact that Shane Smith is going to be on this team in 2026 is the main thing you want when you're selecting 1-1, is a guy that you feel like you can add to your team for the next 6 years. They're going to have control over Shane Smith for the next 6 years. I think that they're thrilled to have Shane Smith on their team until 2031. And they're going to, if they keep him on the roster for all of 2025, because he's a Rule 5 pick, they'll gain his minor league options. And maybe you don't see Shane Smith start in the actual opening day rotation. I'd be surprised by that, but maybe you don't see him in the actual opening day rotation in 2026. And maybe they're having him work on something down in AAA. But it does seem like this is going to be a piece of the puzzle. And not to get too sidetracked, because yesterday they end up putting Nick Nastrini on waivers. But you look back at Nastrini, even in spring training, I mean, we still had hope that Nastrini could be part of the puzzle. Nick Nastrini was a top 10 prospect in spring for the White Sox. Then he falls back to 24 after the wheels kind of came off in spring and he wasn't good in AAA. He just kind of kept falling and falling and falling. But right now, Shane Smith is at a much better spot than a Nick Nastrini ever was. There is obviously a regression that's happening, but I think that regression should have been expected because of the fact that, again, Rule 5 pick, never pitched above AA. He ran into so many Tommy John, so many injuries just throughout his career, never really got to get the ball rolling at Wake Forest. It's a true project that they're working on. And the fact that this project is showing some flaws shouldn't have you really deterred that the fact that this guy will be a major league pitcher. He has everything that you want from the extension, size, velocity, spin. This is what starting pitchers look like. Obviously, it doesn't look great so far, but even the guy that we're going to talk about with 3,000 strikeouts, there's bumps in Kershaw's career, not as bad as Shane Smith. I mean, he hit the ground running pretty well. But, whether it be injuries for Kershaw, the fact that now he's trying to learn to pitch with 88 mile per hour velocity in his four-seam fastball rather than 93, there are tons of adjustments that pitchers have to go through. The greats are able to make those adjustments seem seamless, like a Kershaw, like a Verlander. But Shane Smith, again, is in the very early career of his Major League Baseball career. So I wouldn't be panicked about anything from Shane Smith last night. The only thing that I'm worried about is the fact that he hasn't really relied on his changeup that much. I think he saw 6 left-handers last night, only threw 12 changeups, favored the slider to the same amount, threw the curveball 25 times, and threw his four-seam fastball 40 times. It does seem like he has come off of the reliance on that changeup, but to a point where I don't think he's even focusing in enough. So I'm really excited that his four-seam fastball, his curveball, and changeup are really good pitches, but I don't think he's found the stamina to use all of those pitches like he would properly want to if he, was a guy with several hundred inning pitch seasons under his belt. The fact that he's able to give you 97 pitches, I think, is a win for the White Sox, and he's able to get his 16th start of his major league career under his belt. You look at the called strike plus win percentage, or called strike plus whiff percentage. It's 30% for Shane Smith. That's major league average. That's one of the actual better starts of late for Shane Smith against the Dodgers, so that's a sign that should be exciting. And then 15 whiffs on 48 swings, a 31% whiff rate. It shows you, again, how dominant the stuff can be. It's not there yet. He's not a finished product, but this is a guy that's not even near arbitration yet. This is a very exciting project for the White Sox, and you shouldn't be deterred by anything from Shane Smith last night. Let's go into the Sox versus Yamamoto. It was fairly ugly. Yoshinobu Yamamoto threw 44 four-seam fastballs and 23 splitters and absolutely dominated the White Sox with those 67 pitches. He got 9 whiffs on those 2 pitches and 13 called strikes on just those 2 pitches, over a 33% or 32% called strike plus whiff percentage on just those 67 pitches alone. The curveball has been touted as a very, very good pitch. The Sox were able to lay off of that for the most part. No whiffs on 8 swings and only 1 called strike, so it wasn't a majorly effective pitch for Yoshinobu Yamamoto, but if it was, I think he probably would have rolled through the White Sox. Benintendi was able to score a run in the 4th off a Lenin Sosa double, but there really isn't much to talk about from last night outside of Shane Smith probably looks a little bit better than he did on the box score. If you're just box score scouting, Shane Smith did a little bit better than what the eye may tell you. Before we get into Patrick Nolan joining us after the break, I want to talk a little bit about Kyle Teel and Edgar Quero to set up the upcoming discussion. Teel caught last night for Shane Smith. He caught the Sunday game as well. And I'm seeing a pattern that's a little bit queasy, makes me a little queasy. Since Teel's debut on June 6th, Teel started that day, then Quero on the 7th, and then Teel had 3 straight starts, then Quero, then Teel, then Quero, then Teel, then Quero, then Teel, then Quero, then Teel, then Quero. And since then, on the 21st, you've seen 2 straight games started by Teel, 1 game started by Quero, 2 games started by Teel, 1 game started by Quero, and 2 games started by Teel. So if the pattern's going to follow, Quero should be starting tonight, and then tomorrow and the Friday game against Colorado, Teel should be the catcher then. I'm just concerned on if this is actually feasible enough to grow 2 top 100 catchers at the same time. I don't understand why they're both at the major league level. We did talk to James Fegan a little bit about 2 weeks ago, and he said that the White Sox feel like Teel has progressed a little bit more defensively, that he is a better receiver, that he is a better game planner, is a better game caller, and right now that's why Teel is getting more of the trust behind the plate. But Quero being the youngest player in Major League Baseball, I think right now, or one of the youngest players, one of the youngest catcher in Major League Baseball right now, youngest player on this White Sox team, you wonder why he is up at this moment. I'll ask Patrick Nolan after the break, but what they're trying to do to keep them fresh is put them at the DH position, and these 2 guys, I just think because of their actual position, just aren't DH types. You look at what Teel has done in the 2 games as a DH. Again, it's only 2 games. 333 average. Hey, 286 on base percentage and a 333 slugging percentage. It's a 619 OPS. And then you look at Quero as a DH in 9 games, 161 average, 257 on base percentage, and a 194 slugging percentage. You compare that to what he was doing as a catcher, 296 average, 360 on base percentage, and a 344 slugging percentage. I just think that this is a very weird hole of a needle to thread of having 2 top 100 catchers on your roster and not giving, I think, them the true effort or attention that both of them need. It's a weird wall that they're running into. We'll talk to Patrick Nolan about it just in a second. This is the CHGO White Sox podcast presented to you by Bet365. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary with our friends over at Bet365. Use code CHGO365 when you sign up. We'll talk to Patrick Nolan right after the break. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary with our friends over at Bet365, who are now live in Illinois. Sign up using code CHGO365, bet $5, and get $150 in bonus bets, whether your $5 bet wins or loses. Tonight is a big game for the White Sox and Dodgers. MLB legend Clayton Kershaw is looking to become, I think, the 25th, 26th player in Major League history to have 3,000 strikeouts. He needs 3 strikeouts. You could bet on everything. You could bet live in-game with Bet365 on the live odds on who he will strike out next. Like, who will be the guy that actually makes 3,000? I think it's going to be Andrew Benintendi. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary with our friends over at Bet365. Use code CHGO365 when you sign up. Bet $5, get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins or loses. Must be 21 plus if you or someone you know has a gambling problem. Crisis counseling and referral services can be accessed by calling 1-800-GAMBLER in-app only. We also want to let you know about our friends over at Empire Today, 588-2300. Empire Today. Our friends over at Empire Today are the experts in flooring. They have dedicated flooring professionals who are focused on flooring every single day. When you contact Empire, you are going to be dealing with somebody that can bring samples right to your home. You can check how those samples look with your furniture, and you could deal with professionals from the start. You could have professionals installing your flooring once you make your selection, and you can be taken care of by the professionals over at Empire Today. Don't do it yourself. Don't look to people at the big box store to help you because they can't. The professionals over at Empire can. Again, 588-2300 Empire Today. Schedule a free in-home estimate today because some things are better at home. CHGO listeners can receive a $350 off discount when using promo code CHGO. A $350 off discount with promo code CHGO. Restrictions apply. Visit empiretoday.com/CHGO for full details. Welcome back into the CHGO White Sox podcast presented to you by Bet365. We are going to welcome in White Sox blogger Patrick Nolan. You can follow him at SoxMachine_Penals. Maybe we just need to work on him being referred to as Penals. Is Penals taken?
The handle is definitely taken. It's taken by a nondescript account that calls itself Willie Knowles, and I've not been able to claim that. So I wish I could, but I can't.
We'll have to figure that out. Patrick Nolan's joining us. Excited to talk to him. Before we get into White Sox stuff, one thing that I am rooting for you on is your Jeopardy journey. I know that you submitted your 12th attempt recently. What's that process like, and why have you been submitting it for 12 years? How long have you been submitting tests at this point?
Yeah, I think it's probably been about 7 or 8 or so. They started letting you do it twice per year, somewhat recently. So I've been able to double up a little bit, but just giving it a shot. I feel like trivia has kind of become like a little bit of a hobby, passion project for mine over the course of last 7, 8 years or so. So figure might as well roll the dice on it. Process is you take the test, and then whether you pass or fail, the odds are nothing is going to come of it. So it's a little frustrating because you don't really know where you're at, but I guess you just keep hoping and trying.
Do they give you any feedback on like how you did, or is it just, you're accepted or not?
If you pass and you're randomly selected, they'll invite you back to take another test, this time on Zoom. I've done that once. And then if you pass, they may ask you to come do an audition. And if you do well at the audition, they may ask you to come on the show. So there's basically, in addition to like anything that might be a skill issue, you have to basically beat 3 rounds of random exclusion, and the odds are stacked against you at every turn.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's just so funny, too, because, sometimes you're watching TV and it's just how Joes versus pros get started is people like, oh, I could do that. And you watch Jeopardy and you're like, oh, well, I could do that. You have a nice, run in a sports category. But, it seems absolutely absurd. Good luck to you. Hopefully one day we'll see Penals out on Jeopardy. Let's talk about White Sox fandom here. How you feeling in 2025? This is now, year and a half of Chris Getz's tenure as general manager. Are you feeling that they're fun bad? Are you feeling like there's some light on the horizon? Is this still the depths of the depths? Where are we at with White Sox right now?
I mean, it's certainly a step forward from last year, although that's not really saying a whole heck of a lot. I took the over 53 wins bet this year, and I think I didn't get as juicy a line as many people did, but that still seems firmly in play, even though they had a recent rough stretch. Definitely feeling good about where this is going, as long as they're able to identify the right players to bring in from the outside to supplement who they have. I think that they started out with a nice crop of prospects. I think that the way this year has gone, things are a little bit of a mixed bag. I mean, you've got some successes to point to. I think even if I, even if Shane Smith might be, I don't know if he's hitting a wall or what have you, but he certainly seems like somebody who will probably have increased success as he builds up his arm strength over time. Chase Mydroth looks like a steal as the third piece in the Garrett Crochet deal, and Kyle Teel's had a really solid start as well. I think that if I have concerns, it's that I'm not exactly sure where the star players are going to come from. Because Mydroth is as exciting as he's been at times this year, even if the perfect world scenario doesn't paint him as like a top three player on a championship caliber team. Miguel Vargas maybe took a step forward, and I think that's been nice, but even he's taken a little bit of a step back, I'd say, in recent weeks. So he's not on as good a trajectory as maybe he was earlier in the season. And I think that when you look at the guys still in the minors, like Noah Schultz, maybe he could be a top of the rotation guy, but he's had an uneven year. Braden Montgomery is the one that looks great. I think maybe I'm just kind of holding out hope for him and all the mashing that he's able to do, because I'm wondering when they're going to be able to put a guy on this roster that can hit like 30 plus homers a year, break into like the 5-ish WAR territory that really makes you excited that you have a cornerstone. So I'd say that's my concern, but I'd say I'm glad to see that they're moving in a better direction than they were before.
Right, and I think Colson too. Like, he was supposed to be that guy that maybe hit 30 home runs, was our top 10 prospect, and then just completely fell off the top 100. Has bounced back in, but like with Colson, we've seen it with Vargas. How do you feel like Chris Getz is built out with Brian Bannister and Ryan Fuller to help these guys develop, and if they do stumble, get them back on the right track? Do you feel like these are the right people in place, and that the Sox have finally like moved forward from the Hahn and Williams era?
I do, and yeah, one thing I've had respect for Chris Getz for from the beginning is that it's almost like he's had an acknowledgement that maybe he's in over his head on some of this stuff, and that he really does need a lot of outside help. Don't think it was any secret that he didn't exactly win a competition to get this job. So he brought in guys that seem to know what they're doing. And Brian Bannister is a guy who's been thought of as a pitching guru for a long time, and certainly happy to have him in the organization working with the guys. Ryan Fuller has a lot of success to point to from Baltimore, and I think that there's been some solid early returns when he's actually been able to sit down and work with the guy. I mean, everything with Miguel Vargas's hand adjustment to how he seemingly rejuvenated Colson Montgomery after the little stint in Arizona. So you can kind of see the positive effects that these guys are having. And it's just going to be a matter of finding a critical mass of talent to develop that's going to turn the major league team around.
Yeah, fingers crossed. I'll throw this question, and I know I was going to probably save this one for last, but it just seems like we're teetering towards that. You have the 10th pick coming up in 2025, and then in 2026, it seems like they have an extremely high chance of getting a top 3 pick. It seems like if Getz is going to make a true impact in these early years, it's going to be in these first 2 drafts. Are there any things that you've learned being a White Sox fan, being tortured by Hahn and Williams drafts? Like, what are the things to avoid if you're Chris Getz with a top 10 pick? Is it just don't draft Carson Fulmer and draft anyone from college? Is it just go all in on prep players at this point?
I think one thing that we've learned is to, when you're drafting that high, to avoid the low ceiling guys that feel like they're going to be towards the low end of the defensive spectrum, or like in the example of Nick Madrigal, like a crippling lack of power that's really going to cap the upside, or a guy like Zach Collins, where everybody but you thinks that he's not going to stick behind the plate. And yeah, you mentioned another one, Carson Fulmer. I think that there's plenty of folks that had him pegged as a reliever even from the start, and he wound up not even being that. I think with Rick Hahn pontificating through his rebuild, when he got that first crop of players that didn't turn out the way we wanted, I think that he was preaching that we needed to have multiple waves of talent to come through the system and supplement the first wave. And that just never happened because of years of bad drafting. And I'd say, my opinion, more important, bad development, because not only did the top guys seem like they were the wrong choices, but you didn't have any sort of surprises from the later rounds that kind of panned out. And, these guys that other organizations seem to get, like a 5th rounder here, a 6th rounder there. I mean, you don't really expect guys taken in those rounds to become useful major leaguers, but occasionally it happens, and it hasn't happened for this team. So these next couple drafts are huge because they're going to have to keep supplementing guys, especially if we're not suddenly go. I don't, I don't know where things are going with the Ishbias, but like I don't know if we're suddenly going to be a team that's paying top dollar in the free agent market. I don't think that's going to be a sustainable way for the White Sox to build a winner.
Yeah, right. At the end of the day, these are people that have made billions of dollars, so you assume they'll try to try to make every single penny that they possibly can. So yeah, I don't know if it's that bright of a horizon. You bring up though, like the wave of talent. Even then, Hahn he found a guy in Romy Gonzalez who was talented in the late draft, and then they just kind of were like, oh well, this is our guy, and we have to christen him as the next savior, and it's just like, oh well, he does nothing with your team, and the Red Sox are actually able to do something with him. One of the guys that they built the rebuild on was Luis Robert Jr., one of the remaining pieces. I think the last remaining piece of this team. What is the future of Luis Robert Jr.? Do you think he's dealt by July or by the deadline?
I think that you'd be hard pressed to find a team that sees him as a significant upgrade at this point. Um, it's one of those things where the way things are trending, I think that his option for next season, I want to say it's $20 million. I might be wrong on that, but I'm not too far off of that. And that suddenly doesn't seem like such a promising investment. I don't know that you'd be able to find a higher upside guy to pay 1 year $20 million, because certainly we've seen the crusher, the 40 homer side of him, but something seems to have just vanished from his game. I know they tried to make him more selective this season, and I don't know that that's really panned out. I think that maybe he needs to kind of get back to you just accepting that he's going to swing at some garbage off the plate if it lets him really attack the pitches that he had been punishing before. But I think absent a major hot streak in July, it's going to be hard to sell a team on thinking that this is a guy that's going to supplant their regular center fielder. I mean, you figure most contenders already have somebody there anyway, and Robert's only really pushing replacement level at this point because of his defense. So what do you do with a guy like that? I don't know. There's not a lot of good options.
Yeah, I think Bez is in the chat, and he's brought up that he's pretty much Michael A. Taylor, but a worse hitter, which is just great to see for our franchise player.
Insane.
Yeah, I just think though that some team could talk themselves into if the Sox do eat half of the remaining salary for this year, or maybe even the full thing, that they could talk someone into two top 10 prospects, but outside of the top 5, I feel like there's still some interest in the guy that can steal 20 bases and play that good at defense. But maybe I'm just, again, attached to the 2020 version of Robert.
Yeah, I mean, I think somebody definitely could want him, and you're right. Like, I think that at the price that he's, the price for his rest of season salary, I don't know if he's going to be quite worth that much. But then it's a question like, are you really getting much more than lottery tickets at this point, even if you eat the money? And really, I'm not sure. I mean, maybe there's some hitting coach in another organization that's like, oh, I can fix this guy, no problem, or I see what's wrong, and maybe it's going to take something like that to really entice another team to pony up somebody interesting for him.
Yeah, and to talk about the rebuild, who they're going to build around, there's currently the battle of who will start each and every day at catcher for the White Sox. Today it's Edgar Quero. The past 2 days it's been Kyle Teel. There's been a sort of pattern too. It's been 2 days of Teel catching, then a day of Quero, then 2 days of Teel, et cetera, et cetera. Is this the right path for the Sox? Should one of these guys be in AAA right now? Like right now, at least 2025 focused. Is this the right path to develop 2 top 100 prospect catchers?
Yeah, I've kind of had a problem with it just because I think that when they first acquired Kyle Teel, there was a lot of comments like, oh, somebody can flex to first base, or we can keep the DH slot open for the other guy to be in the lineup. And I think that Will Venable saw that bite him one time, and it was really his doing that why it happened. And I think Will Venable's just kind of nervous to do that on a regular basis now because if Tyler Alexander winds up batting, you kind of just feel like something's going horribly wrong. But really, the cases where you get forced into that situation just by an injury are really, really rare. And I wish they would try to do it more often. Now, that said, you do ask an interesting question about should somebody be in the minor leagues? And I've got to wonder what's going on with Edgar Quero at this point, because I think coming in, we knew that the framing was going to be a little rough. It's been a lot rougher than I think even we had imagined. And I don't know when the automatic ball strike system is going to arrive. I think that Quero would probably be at about 0.3 WAR instead of negative 0.1 WAR if there was no such thing as framing. But as it stands, his two flaws at the moment have been receiving and the glaring lack of power. And unlike Kyle Teel, I'm not really seeing a lot in Edgar Quero's batted ball profile that suggests that he's, just kind of that it's only a matter of time. I just see a guy who's not really putting a charge into the ball. And maybe he does need a little bit of a stint in the minor league to get back to punishing pitches, because he's never been a huge home run guy, but to have 0 at this point in the season is a little concerning. Whereas with Kyle Teel, I feel like they're going to come. I still feel like he's hitting the ball hard enough that he just needs to run into one at the right angle and it's going to go.
Right, and with Teel too, I think DJ was talking this about on the radio. He ripped a double, but they still talked about how he was like early on the changeup, and that he's just mostly needing to time up his front foot perfectly with major league fastballs, and that just might unlock Teel. The last question I have for you here, Patrick, is who do you think will represent the Sox at the Midsummer Classic here in July? If you had to pick one, because apparently we have to pick one. Do you think it'll be Shane Smith just because of the kind of heartfelt story around him?
Can we just send Grant Taylor? I know it's not going to be him because he hasn't been here long enough and all that, but like I'm kind of thinking like that would, if I were to pick the guy who probably seems the most like an all-star at this point, it's probably him. I think Mydroth was making a strong case early in the year. Then, his batted balls luck wound up taking a downturn. Miguel Vargas couldn't sustain his hot streak. An interesting guy. I saw Lenine Sosa and Ryan McGuffey's poll earlier today, which I don't know if that's in the cards, but it's kind of interesting that he's been one of the more compelling bats. I think ultimately it will be Shane Smith because his aggregate numbers haven't taken enough of a downturn to the point where, I don't think there's a lot of recency bias in this selection process. I think it's going to be Smith. I'd say if it's not Smith, then my pick would probably be Mike Vassell, because I think that his ERA looks good anyway, even if everything else doesn't.
That would be crazy if that's the Rule 5 pick that ends up being the All-Star Game selection for the Sox.
It's gonna be. I think it's gonna be one of the two. I mean, they're my two front runners right now.
There's a way for me to talk myself into if Kyle Teel has a real hot 7 games. He's currently 3rd on WAR for the White Sox, only playing 17 games so far. So hey, if he closes out the first half really strong, maybe it's Kyle Teel.
Yeah, I mean, you figure if he starts hitting some home runs and maybe there's like a high profile injury to one of the catchers. I mean, gosh, they usually don't do it with a guy with such a short track record. But I mean, honestly, anything can happen there. And honestly, by the end of the season, if you asked me who I think the White Sox best player is going to look like, I would say Kyle Teel. So I think that would be fitting if he got the call, even if it would be breaking decades of precedent in how these guys are selected.
I think I agree with you too. I think it's either going to be Vargas or Teel. I think those seem like the guys that just have the sturdiest base to survive this entire season. Patrick, it was awesome to have you join us. Make sure you go follow Patrick over at SoxMash _ Penal.
It's work.
Absolutely. Appreciate it, Patrick, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, thanks a bunch, Sean. Bye.
See ya. We're going to take a break here on the CHGO White Sox podcast, presented to you by Bet365. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary here on the CHGO White Sox podcast. We want to let you know about our friends over at Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary. It's a place for judgment-free cannabis shopping where you can explore, discover, and purchase a wide array of high-quality cannabis items. If you're new to the cannabis world, their bud tenders can help you out, from placing an order to what type of strains you might like or not like, to what type of method you may enjoy, whether that may be inhaling or maybe gummies, or maybe you want to make a nice little drink. I love the Uncle Arnie's drinks. You can mix those into some lemonade and a Spindrift, and there you go. You got a little mocktail. Is it a mocktail because it has cannabis in it? Whatever. Go check out our friends over at Sunnyside. They have locations all across Illinois, whether it's in the city like Wrigleyville and River North, or in the suburbs like Champaign and South Beloit. I love the location out in Elmwood Park. Visit sunnyside.shop for Bright Buys every day, including 50% off your first 3 online purchases. Enter promo code HICHGO at checkout to qualify for 50% off your first 3 online purchases. Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary, Bright Buys every day, only for 21 plus or Illinois medical card holders. We also want to let you know about our friends over at Monarch Money. They can be your personal CFO. I am very lucky to have my wife in my life who is my personal CFO. I just send my check to her and she deals with it. On the first, she pays all the rent and all the bills, and I'm a very lucky boy. If you're not lucky, you can download Monarch Money. Maybe you are drowning in all of the financials. This is more than an average budgeting app. Monarch Money is a complete financial command center for your accounts, investments, and goals. It gives you full visibility and control so you can stop earning and start growing. So don't just manage your money, start building wealth with 50% off your first year. Without a clear financial picture, financial dreams, all of that can feel out of reach. Monarch Money helps managing money simple and even for busier lives. So get control over your financials with Monarch Money. Use code CHGO at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code CHGO. Welcome back to the CHGO White Sox podcast presented to you by Bet365. Use code CHGO365 when you sign up. Thank you again to Patrick Nolan for joining us on the show. Always fun to talk to Patrick. That was the first time having him on this podcast, but you know, I've known the guy for 5 years. That's the weirdest thing about the internet is you know people for years on years on years, and then you actually talk to him. And hey, he's extremely pleasant, like I always thought he would be. So
pen pals.
Yeah, huh?
Pen pals.
Pen pals, exactly. Yes. And shout out to the Nolans for raising that boy right. Good to talk to him. We got the Sox taking on the Dodgers tonight at 9:10. It is Brandon Eisert opening for Sean Burke. That will be the White Sox pitching tandem tonight. And Clayton Kershaw will be the starting pitcher for the Los Angeles Dodgers. Kershaw is chasing to become the 20th pitcher in Major League history to reach 3,000 strikeouts in the regular season. Walter Johnson was the first in 1923 to reach that. And then it took 51 years for Bob Gibson to reach it in 1974, Gaylord Perry in 1978, Nolan Ryan in 1980, Tom Seaver in 1981, Carlton in 81, Fergie Jenkins in 1982, Don Sutton in 83, Phil Niekro in 1984, Burt Blyleven in 1986, Clemens in 98, Johnson in 2000, Maddox in 2005, Schilling in 2006, Pedro Martinez in 2007, John Smoltz in 2008, then Sabathia and Verlander in 19, and Scherzer at 21. He is 3 strikeouts away, currently sitting at 2,997 strikeouts in his career. The White Sox lineup is as follows. Leading off, Chase Meidroth at shortstop. Batting second, Austin Slater in left field. Batting third, first baseman Miguel Vargas. Batting fourth, DH Andrew Benintendi. Batting fifth, catcher Edgar Quero. Batting sixth, second baseman Lenyn Sosa. Batting seventh, Mike Tauchman, your right fielder. Batting eighth, Michael A. Taylor, your center fielder, and batting ninth, everyone's favorite player, Vinny Capra at third base. Again, Eisert is the opener. Sean Burke will be your starting pitcher, or at least pitcher after Eisert opens the game. The Dodgers lineup, Ohtani's leading off at DH. Betts is second, playing shortstop. Batting third, Will Smith at catcher. Batting fourth, Freeman at first base. Batting fifth, Pajes in right field. Batting sixth, Muncy at third base. Batting seventh, Conforto in left field. Batting eighth, Tommy Edman in center field. And Kim is the second baseman, batting ninth. The one big question is who will be struck out? Who will live in infamy for the entire highlight reel when a pitcher is enclosing on 3,000 strikeouts and they have the 3,000 strikeout of Bob Gibson and the 3,000 strikeout of Roger Clemens and the 3,000 strikeout of Pedro Martinez and they have the 3,000 strikeout of Clayton Kershaw. Who will be the White Sox to record that out? I think it will go as follows. I think Meidroth will be pesky, and I think Meidroth will put a ball in play. I think the same will go for Austin Slater. That's a player that played in the NL West for a long time, is mainly a lefty hitter. I think that he understands what Kershaw will be doing to him, and with Kershaw, I mean, this is not 2016 Kershaw who was throwing 93 miles per hour. His fastball has lost pretty much 5 miles per hour of velocity. He's still extremely effective. Don't get it wrong. He's just not the dominant strikeout pitcher he used to be. I don't think he'll have enough craft to get around Austin Slater. I think the same will be for Miguel Vargas. Might go 1, 2, 3. I do think Benny will struggle with him, but not maybe in the first at bat. I think Quero will also put a ball in play. think the first strikeout will be against Lenyn Sosa. I think our guy Lenyn Sosa will be swinging out of his shoes at a guy throwing under 90 miles per hour, and I think the veteran Clayton Kershaw will embarrass Sosa. Tauchman has been pretty good in his career against Kershaw. I don't see him striking out. Same goes for Michael A. Taylor. I think he will not be striking out, but I do see Vinny Capra. If we're going through the order 1 through 9, I think that we will see Vinny Capra be struck out. And then finally, the person that will live in infamy as the 3,000 strikeout of Clayton Kershaw's career, I think it will take until the, 13th batter in Andrew Benintendi. I think the 13th batter will be the strikeout that ends up putting it away for for Clayton Kershaw. He will be the 20th Major League pitcher to reach 3,000 strikeouts in his career. OJ's glove with the John Stamos profile picture, the greatest Beach Boy to ever live.
Love him.
John Stamos?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Full house.
Yeah. Whatever happened to predictability? OJ's, is it possible Quero can play first? I think both of them need to be in the lineup together as much as possible. The main thing with Quero is he's just not big. He's not that tall. He's 5'11". I don't know if he's really that big of a target over at first base. And as Patrick mentioned, he's not really a stocky enough guy to hit as a first baseman. I mean, that was the big complaint with Andrew Vaughn, was that he barely had a slugging percentage over 400. I mean, Quero's batting average, I think, is exactly the same as a slugging percentage, just a little bit 50-point difference. But that's just because pretty much everything's a single. He's got a couple doubles in there, but Quero really struggles to impact the ball. I don't think that that's going to end up being his route. I don't think that's going to be ending up where Quero is. And just to add too, he's never played first base in his minor league career or at his major league career. He's always been at catcher. He's done a little bit of designated hitting, but he's mainly been a catcher throughout his career. So I don't think that Quero would be a first baseman. If anything, it's Teel moving to right or left or first baseman. At Virginia, he played second base. I think that'd be a bit of a stretch to see him move to second base. But if anything, I think Teel has the better profile to move positions rather than Quero. Let's talk a little bit about the Kershaw thing as well. I just want to get into some Kershaw/Burke stuff because I'm fairly, fairly dramatic. So, of course, whenever I'm looking at stuff a long time, I'll try to connect stuff. You look at Clayton Kershaw's movement profile, and it just kind of speaks to why he's so dominant. Sarah, if you want to flash the graphics I sent, and just ignore the thing on the right for a second. Just look at the left. All right, this is Clayton Kershaw's movement profile from 2016, the year that it was Arrieta, Greinke, and Kershaw all fighting for the Cy Young. Kershaw and Greinke take votes from each other, and that's why Arrieta ends up winning. But what I want you to look at here, this is newer to StatCast. This is proportional to the amount of usage. The shaded kind of diagonal circles are major league average fastballs. So that circle in red on the left is the major league average for left-handed fastballs. The orange over there is sinkers. You don't really need to worry about that. What you need to worry about is the red dot, the yellow dot, and the blue dot. What you see there from that red dot is Kershaw's ability to really just throw straight down the middle. That thing doesn't have any tail off of his arm, doesn't go glove side as well. It goes straight, and it's got a great amount of backspin that when he throws it up in the zone, guys just swing under it, and that's what's led to 3,000 strikeouts. It is so off the beaten path, so off the predictable movement. You think that the four-seam fastball will move away, right, or will go to his arm side. That's typical for any right-handed pitcher. That's typical for any left-handed pitcher, and he is able to just manipulate the ball so well. He is able to really just be such an outlier when it comes to left-handed pitchers, and that's what made him so dominant. The slider, obviously a dominant pitch there, a little bit off the beaten path as well, a little more movement to the right-hand side, and it's a little less drop, but he was also known for throwing a very hard slider. His mile per hour in 2016 was 88.4 miles per hour. The left-handed average was 83.6 back then, so he was throwing a slider that was 5 miles per hour above the league average, and then you see that curveball. That's what really made Clayton Kershaw is his ability to take off so much on that curveball. The average curveball is 77 miles per hour, and he's able to go to 73 miles per hour. He throws such a looping curveball that has such dynamic drop. You could see the average curveball drop up there, and it's about I don't know, like 8 inches different than the average left-handed curveball. It's absurd what he was able to do, and his movement profile looks the exact same in 2025. He's able to still create that massive amount of movement, that great amount of backspin, and still be able to get, when he's able to locate, great results. So that's why Kershaw's still been able to be so good, is because he's so different than a normal major league pitcher. And the one guy that I'm going to try to compare him to is the guy that will be pitching after Brandon Eisert today, and that's Sean Burke. Two big, huge guys. Kershaw, very well known, especially early in his career, for getting extension. Burke does a really good job of that as well. And just going back to that graphic there, what I want to compare it to is you could see Burke kind of creeping towards that middle line. And you could see that he even has a little less arm side movement than a typical major leaguer. You can see that slider. He throws it harder than a typical major leaguer, and he gets a less drop on his slider than typical. I think if he's able to throw that slider a little bit harder, it could be Kershawian. And you look at that curveball, I've talked about it before. You could see how Kershaw is really on that middle line. That approaches on death ball territory. And we talked about this last year with Sean Burke, is that he approaches on a Jordan Montgomery death ball, where that ball is just straight down. You think that a curveball will go away from a pitcher's right-handed arm, right? Like that it will go towards the glove side. And the fact that it's able to just kind of stay straight is really just dynamic, and it just throws off hitters a ton. So if Burke's movement profile is able to be adjusted, I think that he could be a really dynamic pitcher. And you look at StatCast, he's been very good since the 23rd, 33 innings pitched, a 3.55 ERA. You can even take out the start on the 11th where he gives up 7 runs to Houston. Outside of that, he's been really fantastic. And what stuck out to me in the first couple of games that he was mainly four-seam fastball, slider, and curveball orientated. And now he's been mainly four-seam fastball, curveball, slider orientated. He's really focused that curveball a little bit more. And with that curveball, the movement has changed. It's getting closer to that middle center line, and it's getting more vertical drop. So if he's able to find something with that curveball where he's able to find more vertical drop and kind of eliminate any horizontal movement, this could be a very, very dangerous pitcher for the White Sox. And again, this is the guy that started opening day for the Sox. It was very confusing to people that even follow the team, but I think there is really something there. I think they love this third rounder from Maryland, and I think they really want this guy to work, and I think there's some really intriguing stuff there. OJ's Glove also asking, is it too early to start investing into Tanner McDougal in Birmingham? We talked about Tanner yesterday. 3 starts, 1.76 ERA, I think 15 innings pitched, like 23 strikeouts. I wouldn't invest too much. Some people are saying that he could be a top 10 prospect in the White Sox already. I think that's a little bit overrated. I would still take a guy like Christian Apor over Tanner McDougal, but he's a guy. The big thing that was talked about with McDougal when he was drafted, I believe it was still only the 5-round MLB draft, so he was like the last pick of their draft. It was talked about how he's 6'5" and can spin the hell out of the ball. And right now he's 6'5", spinning the hell out of the ball. So if he's able to take this to the end of the season, keep an eye out for Tanner McDougal. I wonder if he will be a starter or a relief pitcher, though. There's a ton of relief risk in his profile. So I think that you can invest that Tanner McDougal will have a White Sox jersey one day. I don't know what his role will be and how effective he will be. But that's going to do it for the CHGO White Sox podcast. Thank you very much to everyone for hanging out with us in the chat. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button. And thank you very much to Patrick Nolan for joining us. Make sure you go follow P-Knowles over on X. Thank you to Sarah for producing the show. I'm Sean Anderson. We'll be back on Sunday to recap the Dodger series and the Rockies series. I hope you have a very lovely holiday weekend, and we will talk to you on Sunday for the recap of the Rockies White Sox series. See you then.
We all silly like the mayor.